Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today's episode, we're going to be talking with Rarosue about her journey attending graduate school in the US. So Rarosue, can you just introduce yourself and tell us just about your journey and why you ended up choosing engineering?
Okay, hello everyone. My name is Rarosue Maribi. I am a PhD candidate at University of South Florida in the chemical engineering department. I'm originally from Nigeria. I came to the United States in 2018. So yeah, before I came to the United States, I did my undergrad in Nigeria, chemical engineering. Came here 2018 for my master's in global sustainability. And now I'm doing my PhD in chemical engineering. So the question was, why did I choose engineering?
Yeah, why did you choose engineering?
Okay, so okay, why did I choose engineering? I don't know.
The real question.
So yeah, like I was a science student. I loved maths, physics. Um I didn't want to be a doctor. Like, so that was an option to be a doctor. They wanted me to be a doctor actually. But I didn't love biology. I didn't like blood. I didn't like the idea of cadavers. Like I was not going to be a doctor. And so for me, or like my knowledge at that point, the next thing was to be an engineer. And like all the men in my families were engineer, from my father to my brothers to my uncles. Like I wanted to be like them, right? And so they were mostly electrical and mechanical engineers. And I'm like, okay, I want to be an engineer like them, but I don't want to do the exact, I'm just being real, like what I was thinking in my head. I'm like, I don't want to do the exact engineering that they're doing. So I'm going to do something else. And so I was like, maybe I'll do petroleum engineering. And honestly, like there's a physics textbook I have, and like I saw it like I, I saw it again like when I was in uni, and I saw what I wrote on it of I was going to be a petroleum engineer and own my company, my engineering company. Like so, like when I said I was laughing because like I'm like, really, you were thinking about this in high school and stuff. But anyways, like so, like I said, I wanted to be a petroleum engineer, but one of my math teacher at that point told me like, oh, that I doesn't think I should be a petroleum engineer, that I'll be on the rig all the time. I don't know. I don't even know if that was a right reason, but it was like, maybe I should look at chemical. And honestly, I didn't know about chemical engineering. I don't know why. Right. So I then went to search about chemical engineering. And I saw that, oh wow, chemical engineering, like we could do a lot of things. Like I could even do what those petroleum engineers were doing. Like it's just like I had not read about chemical engineering before, and when I read it, it seemed so cool. So I'm like, oh yeah, I'm going to be a chemical engineer. Like so that's why I chose chemical engineering. Honestly, that's my story. There's no there's no yeah. So that was the story. Like I was like, oh yeah, like with chemical engineering, I could manufacture, I could do this, I could do that. And so that's why I chose chemical, and I went to school for chemical engineering, and it became very hard at a point. And I'm like, oh my goodness, why am I here? But I'm like, nobody forced me. I said I wanted to do this, so I'm going to push through. So like during all through my journey, I think like a common thread has been entrepreneurship, because I told you like even when I was in high school in my physics textbook, I was talking about I wanted to be like the CEO and own a company or petroleum engineer. So even like when I was in chemical engineering, at a point it changed to like cosmetic. I was like, I wanted to own a cosmetic. In fact, like right now, my sisters, my two sisters, they keep telling me that I promised them that I was going to start a cosmetic company that will be for black skin, and now I'm in energy. Like they keep attacking me. Like, why did I deceive them that they thought we were going to be billionaires right now? And I'm like, please leave me alone. So yeah, like, but that's the good thing about like chemical engineering. Yes, I know chemistry too, but like chemical engineering is like you can be like in the anywhere. Yeah. So yeah,
Yeah.
that's basically how I got into engineering.
Yeah, that's kind of a similar testament to what I was feeling when I chose chemical engineering is I liked biology, I liked math, I liked chemistry, and I didn't want to have to choose which one to pursue. And so with chemical engineering, I could do everything I wanted to do and even things I didn't even know were possible. So, she's talking about cosmetics. Well, cosmetics are chemicals that requires manufacturing, that requires all those things. It's like she could be a chemical engineer and also be this entrepreneur selling cosmetics. Like it's something that is an investment degree, I feel like. And so I would tell anybody else just who's trying to figure out a degree, I would choose a degree or a topic that allows you to pursue as many of your hobbies and goals as possible, and not just choosing, oh, I like math, so I'm just going to be a mathematician. Like choose something that's going to be an investment for your entire career.
Yeah, I would like to say that right now, cosmetics is not my life. It's more of energy. That's why my sisters keep like, but yeah, like it switched to energy, but
again, chemical engineering. Yeah. You can do that. You can switch, you can morph. And so yeah, you made a comment about engineering is really tough. And it is.
It is.
So why did you choose to keep going and attend graduate school?
Exactly. So like I said, when I entered uni, it became really tough. But I did something I'm like, nobody forced me. Like nobody forced me. Because like really, like when I say nobody forced me, like my family were going to accept what I wanted. Like I told you, they wanted, like they could have been happy if I went the like doctor route, but they were not going to force me to do it, right? Like I said I wanted to do chemical engineering and they supported me, right? And so even when it was hard, apart from like that support, I'm also someone who is like very persistent, and I'm like, yeah, it's hard, but I'll go through it, right? Like I'll pass through it, especially when it comes to academia, right? The academic part of things, I've always been the one to push through to make sure I give it my very best. So yeah, even when it became hard, I just made sure like I continued to push through, and I say the support system was really good for me. Yeah, like support from my brothers, my sisters, my parents. There's a story. There was one time so back home I actually graduated with a first class, so that's like summa cum laude or like the highest honors. However, but there was a point where it looked like I was not going to graduate with the first class. And honestly, at that point, like I finished the semester and like my GPA dropped, and like I was sad and I was scared to tell them at home, right? Because like I had some friends that like their parents would shout at them or whatever. So I think I told only my mom at a point, and I was crying, and my mom was like, "Oh, you crying? Don't worry, you do like you do what you like. Why are you crying?" I was surprised, like why she asked me why I cried. I thought you meant to be shouting at me. And so like then my brother, who is someone I look up to, like he's my mentor, right? And role model, like especially in academia. I know, like, and in his career, how he progressed. So I didn't want to tell him because like I felt like I let him down or whatever. And when he like dropped me in school one day, he was like, "Oh, how was your result last?" Because it's just like he forgot to ask. So I was like, "How was your result last semester?" And I'm like, "I dropped my GPA dropped. I don't know." Like I was start crying. I was like, "Oh no, just make sure like you concentrate this semester and get it back up." And honestly, that was a fuel for me. Like I'm sure they don't remember all of this, but like it was a fuel. The way my mother responded, the way my brother responded, I'm like, oh my goodness, they're not even sad. Like, and I'm like, yo, I'm going to get this thing up. Like it was just a fuel, like pushing me. Like, yeah, I'm going to make sure like my grades are good this semester. I'm going to concentrate more and blah blah blah. Yeah, so for me, I think like the support system was really good. Yeah, the advice. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And let's see. So, did you partake in any internships or research assistantships to actually prepare for graduate school?
So, for grad school, so I'll say, I said like I switched from cosmetic to energy. I'll say that interest actually came in undergrad, right? So yes, there was the ad periods, especially second year, third year. But like when I got to like fourth, fifth, in fourth, I did an internship, but it was not research based, right? It was industry based. Um, but like in my fifth year, we actually did like a thesis, right? And like so we used to do like experiments in like the previous year, but like that year was the year we actually did real research, I would say. And so the topic I chose was related to biodiesel. So that was like my introduction to bioenergy, and also having like the fact that I had to do the research, like literature review, and actually carry out experiments, and I was actually producing like fuel out of oil. It was very fascinating to me. Like I was like, that was like the point where I was like, wow, I like my degree, the fact that I can do this. Like, so the research I was doing, like the literature review, reading about it, introducing me to that world of bioenergy and actually carrying out the experiment. And that's why I say like entrepreneurship has been one thread like all through. It's the fact that I was very fascinated about that industry. I like doing the experiments, writing my thesis, submitting, and actually graduating. The next thing I was thinking about was like, I want to make a company to start producing vaccines. And like, if you know Nigeria, like we drill oil, right? I'm even from the oil city. That's where I'm from, like basically. So I'm like, and you know, fossil fuel, like the pollution in Nigeria, like the waters are polluted, like with oil, and like even the air quality is not so good. And so like having that research and seeing like this an alternative form of energy, cleaner form of energy, and that I could do it, it just made me really fascinated, right, about that possibilities, right? So like I said, I started looking into even starting a company on biodiesel, but as I read further, I saw like challenges and all, but like that just brought me into that world. And that's when I even found out about biogas. And yeah, so after school, like after my undergrad, I continued the research in biogas, like personally. I told my mother about it. She bought me the drums, like to actually create this gas. Do you get?
Wow.
That's why I said the support has been there for like, so whatever I want to do, they just do it for me. Like they bought me the drums, and my mother had the poultry. I was using the poultry waste, reading papers, trying to like produce this gas and all. And actually gas started producing, but I was not testing the gas. So I didn't know it was like CO2 that was being produced anyway. But like I was so energized, and I actually now applied to Shell, like you know the company Shell. They had like a program, Shell Livewire, like that was funding business ideas. And I'm like, I'm creating gas. And so I want to create cooking gas from waste. This is what I'm doing. And I'll say they were my first funders, like in my research or whatever. Yeah, you get, yeah. So they funded me to like continue my research. You know, I told you I had not tested. So at this point, when they funded me, I had to test. And then when I was testing, I realized that the gas I was producing was not burning. But that's when I like went deep into research, was looking for answers online, right? And I stumbled on a group on Facebook called Biogas Researchers and Innovators. So like I started posting like what I was trying to do, and like it was not working. So they directed me, and like it actually started burning. And like the Shell people came, they were so fascinated, they loved it. But you know, in all of this, I'm telling you that my parents, my family support me. But yeah, you know, they guide me. Like, so in all of whatever I was doing, they're like, it's time to go to grad school. Like it's time to go to grad school. And like, I'm like, I really don't want to go do something completely different. I really enjoy this stuff. So if I'm going to grad school, can I do something related to what I'm doing? At least let me know it better, like the biogas stuff. So that's what I started trying to look for, like in grad school. And they really wanted me to go to North America, so United States or Canada. Started looking for it, like in like the grad school websites. But like, you know, at that point, there are some jargons I really didn't understand. So like, so even if I was seeing like catalysis and all, I didn't know that I could apply it in like areas like this. So it just seemed like everything was just, I was like, I don't want to go do some weird chemical engineering that I'm not interested in again. And also there was one day on that group that I found, I just asked them randomly that, please, do you guys have suggestions of universities still doing biogas research? And the owner of the group was like the creator of the group was like, sure, come to USF. to the Patel College of Global Sustainability. And that was the first time I was hearing about that college. And I searched and it was like all about sustainability and all. I'm like, this is what I've been like researching on my own and being fascinated, because I even started a club called Green Club Nigeria to teach about sustainability. And I'm like, oh, there's a whole program like this. Honestly, that's how I got to Florida.
That's
how I
a wild. I am in.
As I got further, yeah, and that professor was my supervisor in the master's degree. Yeah, yeah. So that's how I got to grad school.
I feel like I just had a paradigm shift in this interview. So if you go through a mentorship program with me, I tell my students to create your own opportunities. And holy smokes, did she create her own opportunities?
Yeah.
So there's a couple things I just want to highlight here. Is one, being involved in the things that you want to do in your career early on. So she was doing research about biogas and all these things even before, she actually was getting into it. And that obviously propelled her in so many ways to where she is now. And the second part of that is creating your opportunities means not just, doing the things that you think you're supposed to do, or you want to make sure that you are really not waiting for opportunities to come to you, that you were really taking the time to say, hey, this is the future I want, and these are the steps I can take on my own time to get there. And Rarosue is obviously a big proponent of that, and that is why she is so successful. And I'm still just amazed that all of that just happened. Oh my gosh. Okay, so you knew you wanted to come to USF, all these things. Can you tell us about the application and what was, what were the components of that application and how did you prepare for each of those?
Yeah. So USF was actually not the first school I applied to, right? I actually applied. So it was, I think I was trying to come 2017 fall, but I ended up coming 2018 spring, right? So I applied for that 2017 fall period. So that was like 1 year before. So 2016 ending or whatever. So I think I applied to a couple of schools, but the one I can remember right now is IIT. Um, that's Illinois Institute of Technology.
Okay.
Yeah. Honestly, like I was randomly like at that point I didn't even like what I was applying to. I was just applying to chemical engineering, because like I said, I didn't really understand the research. It was after, like it was in this period, and after that I asked, like, please, is there any university still doing biogas stuff? So but like when I applied to IIT, I actually got into IIT. But I got partial funding, and the funding was so small, and like it was not reasonable for my family to like pay the rest, because the school fees was so much. So like I had another year to like prepare for GRE and just get my scores up, so that I could apply to a better school. But it was in this period I discovered USF. But like the preparation actually was the fact that I met some other students. So in Nigeria, after your undergrad, you have like a 1 year compulsory National Youth Service Corps. So I was randomly talking to someone about writing GRE, because my people want me to go abroad for masters and all. And someone heard me. I was like, oh, he's also preparing for GRE, but like let's prepare together. So we came together, created a group. The group is still in existence now. Like, so we created the group and started adding our friends that were interested in GRE. So like the group actually went across the nation. So like people interested in like going abroad like joined the WhatsApp group, and we started like preparing together from there. And even when we started preparing, some set actually left before us, and so they were like now ahead of us. Like they came to the United States, right? And so they could now give us like better advice. So yes, that was a major aspect in my preparation, preparing with those people. But I also, my brother also enrolled me in the Education USA, the group I talked about initially. When I finished school, he enrolled me there, and that place was in the United States Embassy in my country, and you could go there. It's because they're an official organization. They even bring like, I don't know if I'll call them recruiters now, but officials from universities in America come there to talk to students there. You get, And so you could go there to also like use their GRE materials and all, but it was in Lagos and I was not constantly in Lagos. So it was only when I was there in Lagos, I go there. But like when I was out of Lagos, I could not go there. So that's when I was practicing with my friends. So what I'm trying to say is that there was actually a lot of preparation, right? Being with Education USA, practicing with my friends, and having people that now went to like tell us more about like how life was abroad, having people to look at your SOP. Then there was a mentorship stuff I joined at a point that they linked me, or they paired me with one guy from MIT. And I can remember it was very instrumental in actually helping me edit my statement of purpose. Right. So yeah, so it was not just a sit in the park. So like it was in this process preparing for all of these things. It was during this time I asked about that biogas stuff, and like they told me about that college. And so applying there was now very easy because I already had all of these materials. Do you get? Yeah. So it was very easy. Yeah. And so I applied and I got admission there, although there was no funding. So that was a problem, right? There was no funding because it was like a master's program. But it was cheaper. Like there was no funding, but it was cheaper than IIT with the funding. It was cheaper.
It's too much.
I think it was like 8K per semester.
Okay.
Meanwhile, IIT was 20 something.
No, ma'am.
Yeah.
No, ma'am.
So like,
no, ma'am.
So there was no funding, but do you know what I did? I told my family to just pay for the first semester, and I was going to get a scholarship afterwards. That's what I promised them. I was going to get a scholarship. And so like before even coming, I was searching for scholarships, and like, I was interested in biogas, environmental stuff. I saw like an environmental scholarship, I applied for it. I saw a women's scholarship, I applied for it. So like even before coming, I applied for this scholarship. And so you apply like in fall, the decision will come like the next year or whatever. So when I now came like in January for spring, before like the end of spring, I actually got response from this scholarship body. So I applied for multiple, not just those two. I think I applied for something Florida scholarship. I didn't get that, but I got the environmental scholarship and the women's scholarship for the next semester. And so that's what funded my next semester. But in my second year, I got a research assistantship, and that's it.
Yeah. Well, there's so much to unpack.
Okay.
But I love this. Yeah, so one thing I really think that we should highlight here is that you should surround yourself with people you want to be like. Because that she was talking to people that knew that she wanted to take the GRE, she talked to people who had written a statement of purpose and all of these other things that made that process so much easier because she knew what to expect. So if you're trying to do anything, even if you're, don't want to go to graduate school and want to go directly into the workforce, make sure you're talking to people who went through that process so that they can kind of guide you on what the subtle nuances that you might not have been explained to you just in your courses. And so now, question that I have, because I obviously have no idea what's happening here. Can you talk about your visa situation, if you're comfortable talking about how you obtained a visa and kind of the process for that?
Yeah, for visa, yeah. So for international students, is the easiest way to get the visa is to get your admission and make sure your funding is in order. So funding, be it funding from the school or funding from your sponsors, right? You have to prove that you can afford. You have to prove that you can afford to come here. So one very straightforward way is if you can actually get like your scholarship or your assistantship with your admission. And so when you go for your visa interview, you're telling them where you're coming to school, why you're coming to school, and you just show them your scholarship information. But for me, that like I initially did not have a scholarship, right? I had to show them my sponsor's account to show that they were able to afford to send me to the United States. So, but if you can't prove that you can afford it, you get rejected. You get rejected if you can't prove you can afford it, but you also get rejected if you cannot convince them why you want to come study. Like if it's just weird that, for example, I think during my interview, I saw someone that like had finished university or whatever. Like, so the reasonable thing would be coming for grad school, but he said he was coming to start undergrad again. Like, so it was not, it didn't make sense. It sounded like you just wanted to run away. Like, do you get? So, like, just be genuine. I'll say be genuine. Like, you want to come for masters because you want to build your career. Do you get? You have things you want to do afterwards, and those are the type of things that will ask you. Like, why are you coming for your masters? Why are you coming for PhD? Like, you should actually have a reason why. If you wrote a statement of purpose and submitted it, that should not be a problem, right? Yeah. So be genuine about that, but also your funding situation should be settled. So if you can get funding straight up, like as you've seen, like I make videos about PhDs, right? So like if you apply straight for PhD and you already get your assistantship and all, that should not be a problem because you can just show them you have your assistantship from it. Yeah.
Okay, so so just a quick question. Did you do your master's before your PhD or was it embedded?
Yes. I did my master's before so I did my master's in global sustainability, but my PhD is in the same school. So I just switched departments. Yeah, and that's because like, so I told you of my biogas situation, right? And like, of course, I told you how like I didn't understand jargon. So the lab I'm in now is heterogeneous catalysis lab. But if you had asked me that like how many years ago, I wouldn't know that there was application. Like, do you get what I'm trying to say?
You don't know.
Yeah.
You don't know.
Yeah. So like, because I got into the master's program and I was now doing field research for my bio, I got my external funding for that research, right? And I went for a conference. I also did poster like to present my poster at NSB, and also like in there's a competition in school for posters, and I did my poster for my master's project I was doing. And while I was there, when judges were coming, they were like, "Oh, do you know this professor in chemical engineering? He's doing like similar research but in a bigger scale." And that's when I went to check. I'm like, "Oh wow, I didn't know there was something like this." Like yeah, because the masters I got a master's of arts, although now they do like masters of science or whatever, but it was not research based. That's why I had to get external funding to even do my project. So it was like a capstone project. So when I saw that lab was doing DOE funded projects on biogas in large scale, I'm like, wow, this fits perfectly into my portfolio or whatever. And because at that point, but my plan was like, okay, I was finishing master's year, I was going to apply to like MIT and all for PhD or whatever. But when I saw that group, it was doing exactly what I wanted to do in the level I wanted it, right? And I called my brother. I'm like, I know I've been thinking about MIT, like the Ivy Leagues and all, but I'm seeing a group that actually I'll actually like to build my research in that group. Do you think it still matters about the name of the school or not? And it's like, in this level, in this point of your life you're in, you know what you want, and so that like that's what you go for, not the name of the school. And like that just like settled in my mind that okay, yeah, I don't need to randomly pursue like the big names, as long as I can see like this is the career I want to build for myself, and I have a team here in USF already doing that in a big capacity because they had all the fun, like it was prestigious, right, to be in that group. And I'm like, I'll apply. And I applied and I got accepted with full funding. So yeah.
Great. Okay, so just a small note here. A lot of people don't know this, but PhD programs are quote unquote free. So what they do is your advisor or the department will actually pay for your tuition, and then they also give you a stipend as well. But this is not the case for masters. So a lot of master's programs are not fully funded, and like in Robert's position, you have to find your own funding. So what I recommend people to do, it's kind of cheat the system, is if you want a master's, go for a PhD, get your master's, and you didn't hear it from me, but you can just maybe just kind of not finish.
Yeah, that's what I told people too.
You didn't hear it from me, but it's a way for you to get 3
Yeah,
masters.
sure.
And actually I tell people, and I tell people, like, if you don't have funding for your program for graduate school, I don't think it's worth it to go.
Sure.
That is my personal take.
Sure.
Take that or leave it, but there's just a graduate degree is not going to define your success. You are, I know people in leadership positions who have PhDs or don't have PhDs, and it doesn't define their success either way.
Yeah.
So if you have funding, I would say it's worth it to go. That was one of the reasons I actually attended the University of Michigan. I was like, wow, this is a great university, and I have funding. I'm gonna go. Had I not had funding, I wouldn't be making these videos right now for you guys.
True.
So, okay, now that we're on the topic of funding, which is huge, please tell us about funding opportunities for international students. Where did you look for them? Fellowships, scholarships, and how did you go
So
about
for like
that?
grad school, really, it's not. I think is not as difficult as undergrad, right? It's like you said, the PhD is free. It's free, so it's the same for international students. If you get the admission into a PhD, most of the time, like if the school is not giving you fund, don't go there. Like, so if you can get, so the real thing is getting the admission into the school. If you get admission into a PhD program, it comes with assistantship most of the time. Yeah, so it's the same with like what citizens do, like. So yeah, basically. But one other thing is you might need to write, I think citizens need to write GRE too, right?
Yes.
Yeah, so GRE for citizens and non-citizens, but non-citizens you might need to write TOEFL. So according to your country. So like in Nigeria now, I think it's not really required, but I'll still say write it because it's not required. You don't need TOEFL to get admission, but you might need TOEFL if you're a teaching assistant. So it's better you just write it to just prove to them that even where Nigeria, for example, Nigeria is an English speaking country, but just to make sure that you're not getting denied for such little things. So yeah. So basically that's it. Like it's the same with citizens. You can also get fellowships, right? So fellowships that cater for both international and local students, you can apply for that. Then another route is to go through like your national, like scholarships offered nationally, like in your country. So I know like UAE, they fund their students to come here, or like China, but also in, for example, in Nigeria, there are some national scholarships, like I still have forgotten their names, but like they're like two I can think of. But I can't remember their names. That like if you get it, they'll fund you to go abroad. Yeah.
So it's sounding like if you're an international student, you should be definitely looking in your home country to see if they have funding to send you to another place, even if it's not the United States, to achieve your degree.
Yeah.
But also looking at companies too. Companies might also fund international students to come in and study their PhD.
Yeah.
Okay, so what are some of the biggest unforeseen challenges that international students might face while pursuing their PhD?
Yeah. The biggest one I would say is the authorizations. Like, so that's not during your PhD, it's probably afterwards. But like the fact that you always need to remain in status, there are like rules when it comes to like working afterwards. Um, I'll say that's the biggest challenge we face as international students, because even like when you're trying to get internship or a job, like they always ask you the question like, do you require sponsorship? And as an international student, you do require sponsorship, even if it's not immediately. And sometimes you get denied for job just because of that, just because of that. So that's a big challenge. And so if you don't come here with funding also, there's a big challenge in actually keeping up with your bills, because there's the rule of like you can only work 20 hours and on campus, right? So if you don't have funding and you're working only 20 hours on campus, you have minimum like paying jobs and can hardly pay your rent. The rent is expensive, so that's something else. Like in Nigeria, for example, we pay rent yearly. Yeah, that your yearly is like monthly, basically. So like that's yeah. if you're not funded, it's expensive. It's very expensive.
Okay. Yeah, so I've seen this a lot actually, where people in the United States, when they're getting their PhD, they're jobs that want you to have your PhD before you go into the job market. And some people actually get jobs before they actually defend their thesis. But when I talk to some of my international friends, they actually have to really time their defense, because if they're not studying, they may lose their visa.
Mm.
So just something to keep in mind, that you're going to have to go through your process a little bit differently than the kids from the US do. So
Yeah.
really trying to find that company that's going to, sponsor you, so that when you do defend your PhD, you're not just thinking about where you want to live and all these other things. You might also have to worry about, am I going to be able to maintain my visa? So just keep that in mind.
Yeah.
And so just, wrapping this video up, what is the last piece of advice you have for international students looking to study in the United States?
I'll say do your research very well. Like, if you don't just randomly come to school or apply to school, do your research properly. There are tools in my channel. I have videos where I talked about tools to actually like start your research on. So like, you're researching schools that will actually fund you. Don't go and apply to schools that won't fund you. So yeah, look for schools that you actually have the chance of getting into, right? So that you don't waste application fees. So when I say have the chance, like, you meet their GPA requirement, you meet their GRE requirement, like you meet their requirement, right? And so you have a good chance of getting into those schools. But like I said, also make sure that they sponsor, or like they fund you. So if it's not clear on their website, send message to the administrative officers or like professors or even students. Go to LinkedIn and look for students in that school, in that department, to send message to and ask them. Preferably maybe your fellow Nigerian student that you can communicate with properly. Ask them how things are in that department. Ask them, if you even get into the department, what professors should you avoid? Because when you're going for your PhD, your supervisor makes or breaks your stay or your experience in your PhD. So like, just make sure you're asking the right questions and you're making your decision based on all the information you've collected, so that you have a smooth ride, a smooth PhD. Yeah.
You've shared a lot of wisdom on this interview. Like I said, I've gone through a couple of paradigm shifts, and like it definitely changed my perspective and definitely changing how I'm going to mentor people in the future. So Rarosue also has a page that talks about education and lifestyle, and I will put a link to her channel in the comments of this video. And also, she interviewed me as well. So if you'd like to check out some of the things I said in that interview, make sure to head over to her page. Make sure to also like and subscribe to her page. And also, if you're still here,
subscribe,
like and subscribe this page as well. So thank you so much, Rarosue, for taking the time to interview me and to share your wisdom with everybody else.
It was a pleasure.
Yeah, and so that's it for this video, everyone. I'm looking forward to seeing you next time.
Bye.
Bye.